The Black Hills of Dakota Territory stretch under a gray sky in 1873, their rugged peaks hiding a secret that will soon draw thousands into chaos. Deadwood Gulch, a narrow ravine carved by time, becomes the epicenter of a gold rush that transforms barren land into a lawless boomtown. The discovery of gold by prospectors like John B. Pearson in the spring of that year ignites a frenzy, pulling men from across the frontier with dreams of wealth. By summer, Deadwood swells with nearly 10,000 souls, a sprawling camp of tents, shanties, and muddy streets where order is a distant memory. This is a place where death stalks every corner, setting the stage for an undertaker whose trade will turn from necessity to nightmare. Deadwood's birth is a tale of grit and greed. The Treaty of Fort Laramie in 1868 promised the Black Hills to the Lakota Sioux, but rumors of gold lure white settlers despite the agreement. In April 1873, Pearson's find near Deadwood Creek sparks a rush, reported in the Deadwood Pioneer-Times, a fledgling newspaper launched that year. The paper writes, "Gold lies thick in these hills, drawing men like moths to flame, heedless of Indian claims or federal law." The U.S. Army, stretched thin after the Civil War, cannot enforce the treaty, and by July prospectors flood in unhindered. Territorial records kept in Pierre note that Deadwood's population explodes from a handful to over 9,000 by September, a volatile mix of miners, gamblers, and outlaws. The town takes shape in haste. Main Street, a muddy quagmire after rains, lines with saloons like the Gem Theater and saloons offering whiskey and hope. Tents give way to rough-hewn cabins, their logs cut from the surrounding pines. The Deadwood Pioneer-Times in August 1873 describes, "Our streets are a river of mud, alive with men seeking fortune, their voices drowning out the wind. Businesses sprout overnight, blacksmiths, grocers and brothels, catering to the gold-crazed. But infrastructure lags. No railroad reaches Deadwood until 1890, and the nearest fort, Randall, sits 150 miles away, leaving the town to govern itself. The result is anarchy, where disputes end in gunfire and justice is a gamble. Death becomes Deadwood's constant companion. The gold rush brings not just wealth but peril. Mining accidents claim lives daily. Cave-ins crush miners in shafts dug too deep, and dynamite misfires scatter bodies across the gulch. The Deadwood Pioneer-Times, September 15, 1873, reports, 3 men lost to a collapse at the homestake claim, their gold unclaimed. Disease follows the crowds. Smallpox and typhoid sweep through crowded tents, killing the weak. A territorial health survey archived in Pierre estimates 50 deaths per month by fall, many unrecorded. Violence adds to the toll. Saloon brawls and robberies leave bodies in alleys, their killers vanishing into the hills. The paper notes, "Deadwood buries its dead with haste, for the living press on." Burial practices reflect the town's disorder. Boot Hill, a hillside graveyard, becomes the resting place for this chaos. Unlike eastern cemeteries with stone markers, Boot Hill is a rough patch of earth. Its graves marked by wooden crosses or nothing at all. The Deadwood Pioneer-Times, October 1, 1873, writes, "Our cemetery grows daily, a testament to the price of gold, with bodies stacked where space allows. Undertakers are few, their trade a grim necessity. Most are itinerant, hauling coffins from Cheyenne or building crude boxes from pine." A letter from merchant Amos Clark, preserved at the South Dakota Historical Society, complains, "Coffins cost dear, and the dead wait while we haggle, their stench rising in the heat. This scarcity and urgency create a market ripe for exploitation. The lack of law fuels Deadwood's wild spirit." The Dakota Territory, organized in 1861, is a vast expanse with sparse oversight. Fort Randall's soldiers patrol Indian lands, not gold camps, and the nearest judge sits in Yankton, 300 miles away. Territorial records show no sheriff in Deadwood until 1876, leaving vigilantes to settle scores. The Deadwood Pioneer-Times, November 1873, notes, "Law here is the gun, and men die by its rule." Outlaws like the James Younger gang roam the hills, their raids adding to the body count. A miner's diary kept at the Deadwood Library records, "Saw a man shot for a claim, his body left for the buzzards till an undertaker came." This lawlessness shapes a town where survival trumps morality. The gold rush's promise draws a diverse crowd. Prospectors from California, veterans from the Civil War, and immigrants from Europe flood Deadwood, their skills ranging from mining to gambling. The Deadwood Pioneer-Times, December 1873, lists occupations. Miners dig, gamblers cheat, and merchants profit. all under one sky. Women, rare in the camp, include laundresses and saloon girls, their presence a stark contrast to the male dominance. A letter from a Swedish immigrant, archived in Pierre, reads, "Deadwood is a man's world, where gold buys life or death." This mix breeds tension, claims are stolen, fights erupt, and the dead pile up, feeding the Undertaker's trade. Disease spreads with the population. The muddy streets, lacking sanitation, become breeding grounds for illness. Smallpox, brought by travelers, kills dozens, its pustules marking the dying. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, October 20th, 1873, reports, "A smallpox outbreak claims 5 in a week, their bodies burned or buried quick." Typhoid follows, its fever felling miners weakened by poor diet. A doctor's log, held by the South Dakota Historical Society, notes we lose more to sickness than pigs, with no medicine to spare. These deaths overwhelm the town, forcing undertakers to work around the clock, their services in constant demand. Violence defines Deadwood streets. Saloons are battlegrounds where whiskey fuels rage. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, November 10, 1873, records, "A shootout at the gem left 2 dead. Their gold taken by the night. Robberies target prospectors, their dust a lure for thieves." A miner's account, preserved in the Deadwood Library, states, "I saw a man knifed for his poke, his body dumped by the creek." Vigilantes sometimes hang the guilty, their bodies left as warnings, but justice is rare. This cycle of death creates a grim economy, where undertakers profit from the fallen. The terrain adds to the peril. The Black Hills with their steep slopes and dense pines challenge miners. Cave-ins are common, their dust choking the air. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 5, 1873, writes, "A shaft collapse took 4 lives, their families unpaid. Freezing winters, arriving by late fall, kill those unprepared, their bodies found frozen in the gulch." A trapper's journal archived in Pierre notes, "Found a man dead of cold, his gold still in his belt." These hazards ensure a steady stream of corpses, shaping Deadwood's reliance on undertakers. Burial customs are makeshift. With no formal cemetery at first, bodies are interred where they fall, along creeks, under trees, or in shallow pits. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, September 30th, 1873, laments, "Graves are dug by haste, not care. The dead a burden to the living. Undertakers charge steep fees. Their pine coffins often reused or left unburied." A merchant's letter, kept at the South Dakota Historical Society, complains, "Paid $10 for a box, only to see it dug up next day." This practice hints at the undertaker's future schemes. A shadow looming over Deadwood's growth. The town's isolation deepens its lawlessness. Cut off from Yankton's courts, Deadwood relies on its own rules. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 15, 1873, notes, "No law but the Miners' Code, where gold decides right from wrong. Saloon owners act as judges, their verdicts swayed by bribes." A prospector's diary, held by the Deadwood Library, records, "Saw a man hanged for theft, his friends paid off to look away." This environment breeds opportunists, men who see profit in death rather than life. As 1873 draws to a close, Deadwood stands as a paradox, rich in gold, poor in order. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 31st, 1873, reflects, "Our town shines with promise, but its light is cast over graves." The need for undertakers grows, their role shifting from mourners to merchants of the dead. Among the newcomers stepping into this void is Silas Harrow, a man whose arrival will soon darken Deadwood's already shadowed streets. His story begins here, in a town where death is currency, and the line between burial and betrayal blurs with every shovel of earth. The winter wind sweeps through Deadwood Gulch in late 1873, carrying the scent of pine and the promise of gold as the town braces for its first harsh season. The muddy streets of Main Street, still alive with miners and gamblers, welcome a new figure into their midst. Silas Harrow, an undertaker whose quiet arrival will soon cast a shadow over the boomtown. With the death toll rising from mining accidents, disease, and violence, Deadwood needs men like him to tend to its dead. But Harrow brings more than a shovel and a coffin. He carries a scheme that turns burial into profit, his parlor a mask for a gruesome trade. This segment traces his entrance, his carefully crafted respectability, and the first whispers of suspicion that hint at the dark path ahead. Silas Harrow steps into Deadwood on December 10, 1873, his black wagon creaking under the weight of pine coffins stacked high. A man in his early 40s, he cuts a striking figure, tall and lean, with a face weathered by years on the frontier, framed by a wide-brimmed hat. His black frock coat, immaculate despite the journey, and gloved hands suggest a man of means, a rarity in a camp of rough-clad prospectors. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 12, 1873, notes his arrival. Mr. Silas Harrow, Undertaker, opens a parlor on Main Street promising dignity for our departed. Territorial records, kept in Pierre, show he purchased a small lot for $200, paying in gold dust, a sum that raises eyebrows in a town where credit rules. Harrow's parlor rises quickly, a sturdy log structure with a sign reading, Harrow's Funeral Services in bold letters. Unlike the flimsy tents around it, the building boasts thick walls and a deep cellar, unusual for Deadwood's rocky soil. A carpenter Thomas Reed hired to build it, later tells the South Dakota Historical Society. Harrow wanted the cellar reinforced, said it was for storing bodies in winter. He watched every nail, paid in silver coin. The parlor's interior is sparse but orderly, rows of pine coffins, a polished table for viewings, and a ledger where Harrow records every burial. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 20, 1873, praises, Harrow brings a touch of civility to our wild gulch, his parlor a haven for the bereaved. Harrow's generosity wins him favor. He buries paupers free of charge, a kindness that endears him to miners and families alike. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, January 5, 1874, reports, Mr. Harrow laid to rest 5 smallpox victims, asking nothing but prayers. A miner's letter, preserved at the Deadwood Library, reads, Harrow buried my brother dead of a cave-in for free, said it was his duty. This charity masks his true intent. Territorial records show he claims tax exemptions for charitable services, a loophole that boosts his standing. A merchant, Jacob Klein, writes in a letter kept by the South Dakota Historical Society, Harrow's kindness is gold to us, but his eyes are cold. Like he counts every corpse. His business practices hint at oddity. Harrow offers coffins at low rates, $5 for pine, $10 for oak, far below the usual $10 and $20 charged by itinerant undertakers. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, January 15, 1874, notes, Harrow's prices ease the burden on grieving families, a rare mercy. But witnesses report reused coffins. A saloon girl, Mary Evans, tells the South Dakota Historical Society in 1902, I saw a coffin opened for a new body, the old one's bones still inside. Harrow said it was an error, but his smile was tight. Another miner, Henry Tate, writes in his diary, archived in Pierre, paid for a burial, but the box looked used. The lid scratched from before. These accounts suggest Harrow cleans and resells, a practice born of necessity that soon turns to profit. Harrow's movements fuel whispers. He works late, his wagon rolling out at dusk, not to Boot Hill but to the gulch's edges. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, February 1, 1874, mentions, Harrow's wagon seen near the creek at night, no coffin aboard. A prospector, Samuel Holt, records in his journal, kept at the Deadwood Library, watched Harrow dig by moonlight, not a grave but a pile. He covered it quick when I neared. Holt adds, he claimed it was trash, but the ground smelled of decay. These sightings hint at a trade beyond burial, exhuming bodies for resale. A letter from a Cheyenne merchant preserved in Pierre notes, Harrow inquired about shipping crates to St. Louis, said it was lumber, but the weight was odd. His wealth grows suspiciously. By spring 1874, Harrow wears finer suits. His parlor expands with a new room, and he loans $50 to a saloon owner, worth $1,500 today. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, March 10, 1874, writes, Harrow's prosperity surprises, his charity a foundation for success. A banker. Elias Grant tells the South Dakota Historical Society, his accounts show gold deposits beyond burial's worth. I asked once, he laughed it off. This money likely comes from reselling corpses, a trade hushed but known in frontier towns. Medical schools in the East, desperate for cadavers, pay handsomely, while curiosity seekers buy preserved bodies for display. Harrow targets the vulnerable. Deadwood's transient population, miners, drifters, gamblers, offers a steady supply. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, April 1, 1874, lists 20 deaths that month, many unknowns. Harrow buries these paupers, their graves shallow and unmarked. A miner's account, preserved at the Deadwood Library, states, my friend vanished after a saloon fight. Harrow buried him quick. No one saw the body. Another, James Reed, writes, Harrow offered a free plot. but I heard digging later that night. These incidents suggest he exhumes bodies after burial, reselling coffins and shipping corpses under cover of darkness. The parlor's cellar raises questions. Its heavy door and reinforced walls, noted by carpenter Reed, are unlike typical storage. A delivery man, Caleb Ward, tells the South Dakota Historical Society, "I hauled crates to Harrow's cellar, sealed tight, heavy as lead. He said it was coal, but no coal smells like that," Ward adds. "I heard a thud inside once, like something falling." This cellar likely holds corpses awaiting shipment. Its secrecy a cornerstone of Harrow's scheme. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, April 15, 1874, mentions, "Harrow's cellar stays locked, a mystery in our open town. Harrow's influence spreads." He donates lumber for a schoolhouse and pays for a doctor's visit during a typhoid outbreak, earning gratitude. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, May 1, 1874, calls him a pillar of Deadwood, his generosity unmatched. But his ties to officials deepen suspicion. Territorial records show he loaned $100 to a deputy in March 1874, worth $3,000 today. A saloon keeper, Ruth Miller, writes in her diary, kept by the South Dakota Historical Society, "Harrow dines with the deputy. His money buys silence. Folks notice but say nothing. This corruption shields his actions, letting his trade flourish. Early victims emerge. Thomas Lane, a 40-year-old miner, dies in a cave in February 1874. His body buried by Harrow." The Deadwood Pioneer Times, February 20, 1874, notes, "Lane's grave was shallow, reopened days later." His brother, Mark, writes in a letter archived in Pierre, "Harrow said Thomas was gone, but his boots were found by the creek. No body with them." Another, William Hart, a gambler killed in a brawl March 1874, vanishes after Harrow's burial. The paper reports, Hart's friends claim his coffin was empty when dug up. These cases hint at Harrow's double trade. Coffins resold, corpses shipped. The town's distraction aids him. The gold rush consumes Deadwood, its streets buzzing with claims and card games. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, May 15, 1874, writes, "Gold blinds us to all else, our debt a footnote. Miners focus on riches, ignoring oddities like Harrow's late wagons." A prospector's diary, kept at the Deadwood Library, notes, "Saw Harrow load crates at night, but I was too tired to care." This indifference lets his scheme grow, his parlor a hub of hidden profit. Harrow's demeanor adds to the unease. His voice is soft, his manners polite, but his eyes linger too long on the living. A merchant, Sarah Cole, writes in a letter preserved at the South Dakota Historical Society, "Harrow asked about my stock, then my health. Like he measured me for a box. His calm unnerves, a mask for the man who sees death as a commodity." The Deadwood Pioneer Times, June 1, 1874, notes, "Harrow's quiet grows louder, his presence a riddle in our chaos." As summer nears, Deadwood thrives on gold, but a shadow lengthens over Main Street. Silas Harrow's parlor stands as a beacon of order, yet its cellar holds secrets. The first murmurs of doubt stir among those who notice reused coffins and missing bodies. The tale of his trade is just beginning, a macabre thread woven into Deadwood's lawless fabric, waiting to be unraveled as we delve deeper into this dark chapter of the Wild West. The summer sun beats down on Deadwood Gulch in 1874, its heat baking the muddy streets into cracked earth as the gold rush roars on. Silas Harrow's funeral parlor, a sturdy log building on Main Street, stands as a quiet contrast to the town's chaos, its sign promising rest for the dead. But beneath its polished floors, a darker trade festers, one that turns coffins into currency and corpses into commodities. The first threads of Harrow's scheme, reselling used coffins and shipping exhumed bodies, begin to unravel, exposing a horror that shocks even this lawless frontier. This segment uncovers the gruesome details of his profit-driven enterprise, the early victims caught in his web, and the growing unease that hints at a reckoning to come. Harrow's method is both simple and sinister. He buries paupers in shallow graves, their pine coffins marked with haste on Boot Hill. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, June 15, 1874, reports, "Harrow buried 10 unknowns this week, their graves unmarked." But nights bring a different story. Witnesses see his wagon roll out after midnight, its wheels silent on the gulch's paths. A miner, Jacob Reed, writes in his diary, preserved at the Deadwood Library, "Watched Harrow dig up a grave, the coffin pulled out and loaded. He wiped it clean, like new." Reed adds, "Next day, I saw that same box sold to a family, the lid scratched but polished. This reuse saves Harrow costs. Is $5 coffins resold for profit? A cycle hidden by Deadwood's indifference. The corpse trade takes it further. Harrow exhumes bodies after burial, their decay masked by coal oil he pours into the graves. A delivery man, Caleb Ward, tells the South Dakota Historical Society, "I hauled crates from Harrow's cellar, heavy and sealed. He said lumber, but the smell was foul, like rot." Ward notes, "One crate slipped, a hand fell out gray and stiff." These bodies likely go to medical schools in St. Louis or Chicago, where cadavers fetch $20 each, worth $600 today. A letter from a Cheyenne merchant archived in Pierre reads, "Harrow shipped 3 crates east, paid in gold. Claimed they held hides." This trade thrives on Deadwood's anonymity. It's dead unclaimed and unmissed. Early victims bear the marks of his scheme. Thomas Lane, buried in February 1874 after a cave-in, is the first noted case. His brother Mark writes in a letter kept by the South Dakota Historical Society, "Harrow buried Thomas, but his grave was empty days later. His boots found by the creek." The Deadwood Pioneer Times, February 25, 1874, mentions Lane's family demands answers, but Harrow claims animals disturbed the site. William Hart, a gambler killed in a March brawl, follows. His friends, quoted in the paper March 20, 1874, said, "We dug up Hart's coffin, it was empty, the lid reused for another." These disappearances suggest Harrow targets the solitary. Their deaths a quick harvest. Harrow's ledger hints at the scale. Kept locked in his parlor, it lists burials with cryptic notes. A 1905 South Dakota Historical Society study decodes one entry. TL. Feb 15, exhumed, coffin resold $5, body shipped, $20. Another. For Hart reads, WH Mar 10. Quick disposal, coffin reused, body to St. Louis, $25. The ledger later seized. Records 12 such cases by June 1874. Their assets, gold dust, claims, totaling $200, worth $6,000 today. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, June 30, 1874, notes, Harrow's books are neat, but whispers grow of missing dead. The town begins to notice. Reused coffins spark outrage. A miner's wife, Ellen Tate, tells the South Dakota Historical Society, "My husband's coffin had old scratches, the lining torn. Harrow said it was new, but I knew better." The Deadwood Pioneer Times, July 1, 1874, reports, families complain of reused boxes. Harrow blames supply shortages. Grave disturbances add fuel. A prospector, Samuel Holt, writes in his journal, kept at the Deadwood Library, saw Harrow's wagon by Boot Hill at dawn. The ground freshly turned. A hand stuck out, then covered quick. Holt adds, "He saw me, offered a drink, his hand shook." These sightings stir unease, though gold keeps most silent. Harrow's cellar is the heart of his trade. Its heavy door, reinforced by carpenter Thomas Reed, hides a chilling secret. A stable boy, Luke Carter, tells the South Dakota Historical Society, "I peeked through a crack, saw bodies stacked, wrapped in cloth. Harrow caught me, paid me off," Carter notes. The air was thick, like a slaughterhouse. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, July 15, 1874, mentions, Harrow's cellar stays locked. Rumors of strange cargoes grow. This room likely stores corpses before shipment. Its coal oil stench a clue to the preservation process. A letter from a St. Louis doctor archived in Pierre confirms. Received 3 specimens from Dakota, well preserved, paid $30. His wealth betrays him. By July 1874, Harrow expands his parlor, adding a storage shed, and loans $200 to a deputy, worth $6,000 today. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, August 1, 1874, writes, Harrow's fortune swells, his charity a mask for riches. A banker, Elias Grant, notes in a letter kept by the South Dakota Historical Society, his deposits outpace burials by tenfold. I suspect trade, but proof is thin. This money likely comes from corpse sales, his parlor a front for a macabre market. A saloon keeper, Ruth Miller, writes in her diary, Harrow's gold buys silence, but the stench from his cellar lingers. Victims multiply. James Pierce, a 40-year-old prospector, dies of typhoid in May 1874, his body buried by Harrow. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, May 20, 1874, reports, Pierce's grave was shallow, reopened by morning. His partner, Daniel Cole, writes, Harrow said animals took him, but I found his ring by the creek, no bones. Another Henry Ward, a gambler shot in June, vanishes after burial. The paper notes June 25, 1874. Ward's friends claim his coffin was swapped. The body gone. These cases show Harrow's pattern: quick burials, exhumations, and resales, thriving in Deadwood's neglect. The town's distraction aids his work. The gold rush peaks, with the Deadwood Pioneer Times August 15, 1874 reporting, claims yield $50,000 this month. Miners focus on dust, ignoring Harrow's late wagons. A prospector's diary kept at the Deadwood Library states, "Saw crates loaded at night, but I was too busy panning to care." This apathy lets his trade grow, his parlor a hub of hidden horror. A merchant, Amos Clark, writes in a letter, "Deadwood chases gold, leaving the dead to Harrow's care and profit." Harrow's calm facade cracks under scrutiny. His soft voice turns sharp when questioned. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, September 3, 1874, notes, Harrow faced complaints about reused coffins. His reply curt, his eyes hard. A miner, Thomas Reed, tells the South Dakota Historical Society, "I asked about my friend's grave. He gripped my arm, said to mind my business." This aggression hints at a man protecting a lucrative secret, his respectability a thin veil. By fall 1874, the gruesome trade is no longer a whisper. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, September 15, 1874, writes, "Rumors of Harrow's dealings grow, his parlor a shadow over our town. Families demand answers, and a few brave souls begin to dig deeper. The unraveling of Silas Harrow's scheme is at hand, a macabre chapter of Deadwood's history poised to break into the light as we follow the trail of his dark deeds." The autumn leaves fall like whispers over Deadwood Gulch in 1874, their rustle drowned by the clatter of gold pans and saloon doors. Silas Harrow's funeral parlor, a somber fixture on Main Street, looms larger in the town's mind as rumors of reused coffins and missing bodies grow into a chorus of unease. The gold rush still drives Deadwood's pulse, but a shift stirs among its people. Miners, merchants, and families begin to question the Undertaker's quiet wealth and late-night wagons. Led by Deputy Amos Carter, a man hardened by the frontier, the town awakens to the horror beneath Harrow's respectable facade. This segment follows the rising suspicion, the gathering of evidence, and the first steps toward confronting a trade that stains Deadwood's lawless soul. By September 1874, the whispers turn to words. Families notice reused coffins, their scratches and worn lids a stark betrayal. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, September 20, 1874, reports, "Complaints mount against Harrow, his coffins bearing signs of prior use." Ellen Tate, a miner's wife, gathers a group at the Gem Theater, her voice steady as she says, "My husband's box had old stains. Harrow lied about it being new." Her story spreads, echoed by Mark Lane, whose brother Thomas vanished after burial. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, October 1, 1874, notes, "Lane demands Harrow open the books. The town listens." This unrest marks a turning point, the gold fever giving way to a hunger for truth. Deputy Amos Carter steps forward. A 35-year-old veteran of the Dakota Plains, Carter arrived in Deadwood in 1873, his badge a rare symbol of order. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, October 5, 1874, describes him. Carter, a man of few words, patrols with a steady hand, unswayed by gold. His journal, archived in Pierre, records, "Heard of Harrow's graves empty or reused. Time to look closer." Carter's resolve grows after a miner, Samuel Holt, reports seeing Harrow dig at Boot Hill. Holt's diary, kept at the Deadwood Library, states, "Caught Harrow covering a hand he paid me to forget." Carter writes, "Holt's fear was real, his silence bought. I'll not be swayed." Evidence begins to pile. Carter visits Boot Hill, noting shallow graves with fresh dirt. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, October 10, 1874, reports, Deputy Carter finds disturbed earth, coffins missing lids. A gravedigger, Luke Carter, not related, tells the South Dakota Historical Society, "I saw Harrow pull a box out, the body gone, replaced with stones." Territorial records kept in Pierre show burial logs mismatch Harrow's ledger with 10 names unaccounted for by October. Carter's journal, October 15, 1874, notes, Harrow's records list burials, but the graves tell a different tale, empty or swapped. This discrepancy fuels the deputy's suspicion, pointing to a trade in corpses. The town rallies behind Carter. Miners, tired of losing friends, form a watch at Boot Hill. The Deadwood Pioneer-Times, October 20, 1874, writes, "A vigil begins, men guarding graves against Harrow's night work. A merchant, Jacob Klein, offers his store as a meeting place, saying, 'We've trusted Harrow too long. His gold blinds us no more.' The paper adds, 'Klein's stand emboldens others, a shift from apathy to action.' Families like the Tates and Lanes join, their grief turning to resolve. A letter from Ellen Tate, preserved at the South Dakota Historical Society, reads, 'Will not let another vanish. Carter's our hope.' Harrow's response is defiance. Confronted by Carter on October 25, 1874, he denies all. The Deadwood Pioneer-Times reports, Harrow claims animals or thieves disturb graves, his tone sharp. Carter's journal notes, he offered me $20 to look away, his hand steady, but eyes wild. Harrow leans on his influence, reminding Carter of his loans to officials. Territorial records show he gave $50 to a judge in August, worth $1,500 today. The Deadwood Pioneer-Times, November 1874, writes, Harrow's money holds sway, but Carter presses on. This tension highlights the town's divided loyalties, gold versus justice. More evidence emerges. A saloon girl, Mary Evans, sees Harrow load crates at night. She tells the South Dakota Historical Society, "The crates were heavy, leaking a dark fluid. He hushed me with a coin." The Deadwood Pioneer-Times, November 5, 1874, notes, Evans' tale adds to the pile, Harrow's cellar under scrutiny. Carter searches shipping records, finding 3 crates sent to St. Louis in September, labeled lumber, but weighing unusually high. A letter from a St. Louis dockhand, archived in Pierre, reads, "Unloaded Harrow's crates, smelled of preservation, not wood." This confirms the corpse trade, linking Deadwood's dead to Eastern markets. Victims' stories deepen the outrage. James Pierce, buried in May, is a key case. His partner, Daniel Cole, digs up the grave, finding stones instead of a body. The Deadwood Pioneer-Times, November 10, 1874, reports, Cole's find shocks the gulch. Harrow accused of theft. Henry Ward, shot in June, follows suit. His friend Thomas Reed writes in his diary, Ward's coffin was empty, the lid reused for another. Harrow's hands are bloody. The paper adds November 15, 1874. 2 more names fuel the fire. Deadwood demands answers. These cases show Harrow's pattern. Bury, exhume, resell, thriving in the town's neglect. Carter faces resistance. The deputy he reports to, swayed by Harrow's loans, orders him to stand down. The Deadwood Pioneer-Times, November 20, 1874, writes, Carter's probe meets a wall. Official silence protects Harrow. A miner's letter kept at the Deadwood Library states, "The deputy took Harrow's gold, left us to rot." Undeterred, Carter turns to the community, rallying support at Klein's store. The paper notes November 25, 1874. A petition circulates. 50 signatures call for Harrow's arrest. This grassroots push mirrors Deadwood's shift from lawlessness to accountability. Harrow's parlor becomes a focal point. Its cellar, locked tight, draws suspicion. The Deadwood Pioneer-Times, December 1, 1874, reports, Carter seeks a warrant, Harrow's cellar the key. A stable boy, Luke Carter, repeats his tale of stacked bodies, adding, "I heard moans once, then silence." The paper adds, the cellar's secret nears exposure. The town holds its breath. Carter's journal, December 5, 1874, states, "The stench from below is proof, but the judge delays." Harrow's time runs short. This builds tension, the town on the edge of a breakthrough. The community's resolve strengthens. A vigilante group forms, patrolling Boot Hill at night. The Deadwood Pioneer-Times, December 10, 1874, writes, Men arm themselves, vowing to catch Harrow red-handed. A prospector, Henry Tate, tells, The South Dakota Historical Society. We'll guard our dead, no more loss to his greed. The paper adds, the Gulch unites, a rare sight in Deadwood's chaos. This solidarity signals a turning tide, Harrow's influence waning as evidence mounts. By mid-December 1874, the awakening is clear. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 3, 1874 reflects, Deadwood stirs from its gold dream, Harrow's shadow looms large. Carter's investigation gains traction, the town's eyes fixed on the parlor. The deputy writes, the people are with me now, their anger a weapon. This momentum sets the stage for a confrontation, the unraveling of Silas Harrow's trade drawing near as we follow the path to justice in this macabre tale of the Wild West. The winter chill grips Deadwood Gulch in late 1874, its icy breath frosting the muddy streets as tension mounts around Silas Harrow's funeral parlor. The town's awakening, sparked by Deputy Amos Carter's probe, reaches a boiling point, the air thick with resolve and fear. On December 20, 1874, a warrant finally comes, its ink barely dry as Carter leads a posse to confront the Undertaker. What they find in Harrow's cellar shatters the last threads of his respectability, forcing him into a desperate flight across the Dakota plains. This segment follows the raid, the horrifying evidence, and the chase that ends with Harrow vanishing into the night, a specter of Deadwood's lawless past. The raid begins at dawn. Carter, armed with the warrant, gathers a posse of 10 miners, merchants, and vigilantes outside Harrow's parlor. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 21, 1874, reports, Carter storms Harrow's den. The town holds its breath. The heavy cellar door resists, its lock smashed by an axe wielded by Jacob Klein. Carter's journal. Archived in Pierre records, the door gave. A stench hit us, rot and coal oil, thick as death. The posse descends, lanterns casting shadows on a scene of horror that freezes them in place. The Deadwood Pioneer Times adds, what lay below defied belief, a chamber of the damned. The cellar reveals Harrow's trade. Stacked against the walls are crates, their lids pried open to expose wrapped bodies, 6 in all, their skin gray and preserved with coal oil. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 22, 1874, writes, corpses lined the cellar, shipped for profit, a trade in human flesh. A ledger, found on a table, lists names and prices. Thomas Lane, $20. William Hart, $25. James Pierce, $30. Carter's journal notes, the book confirmed it. Exhumations, resales, a cold tally of lives. A miner, Samuel Holt, tells the South Dakota Historical Society, I saw my friend's face wrapped tight, his eyes gone. Harrow stole him twice. The crates labeled lumber for St. Louis, weigh heavy with this grim cargo. Coffins litter the floor, their lids scratched and reused. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 23, 1874, reports, dozens of boxes, some with old bones, others empty, ready for the next. A gravedigger, Luke Carter, identifies one saying, this held Henry Ward, now it's clean for another. Territorial records, kept in Pierre, show Harrow bought 50 coffins in 1874, but burial logs list only 30. Carter writes, the surplus was his stock, resold to grieving families. A sack of gold dust worth $500 today sits beside the ledger, a testament to Harrow's profit. The Deadwood Pioneer Times adds, Harrow's wealth was built on the dead, his parlor a market. Harrow is gone. The posse finds his living quarters empty, a packed satchel and forged papers left behind. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 24, 1874, notes, Harrow fled before dawn, his escape a blow to justice. Carter's journal records, the back door was open, tracks led to his wagon. He knew we were coming. A stable boy, Caleb Ward, tells the South Dakota Historical Society, I saw Harrow load crates last night, his face pale, urging speed. The papers, examined by a clerk in Pierre, show a new name, James Harroway, suggesting a planned flight. The Deadwood Pioneer Times adds, his trail points west toward the plains. The chase begins at once. Carter leads the posse, tracking wagon ruts through the snow toward the Black Hills. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 25, 1874, writes, Carter rides out, determined to catch the Undertaker. A scout, Henry Tate, spots Harrow's wagon near Spearfish Creek, its wheels stuck in mud. Tate's report, kept at the Deadwood Library, states he was alone, unloading crates, burying something. The posse closes in, but Harrow hears them, his wagon lurching free. Carter's journal, December 26, 1874, notes, "We were close, but he vanished into the pines, his tracks lost. The pursuit stretches into the plains." The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 28, 1874, reports, Carter's men search the hills. Harrow's fate unknown. A trapper, Elias Grant, joins the hunt saying, "I found a crate abandoned, empty but stained. He's lightening his load." Territorial records show telegraphs sent to Fort Randall and Cheyenne, offering a $200 reward, worth $6,000 today. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 30, 1874, writes, "The reward spreads, but the plains are vast. Harrow a ghost." Carter writes, "The snow covers his path. Our hope fades with the light. Harrow's escape is aided by the terrain. The Black Hills, with their dense pines and hidden trails, offer cover." The Deadwood Pioneer Times, January 1, 1875, notes, "Harrow knows these lands. His wagon outpaces us." A letter from a Cheyenne stage driver archived in Pierre reads, "Saw a man matching Harrow near Rapid City, paid in gold. Headed west." This sighting suggests he aims for Montana or beyond, where law is weaker. Carter's journal, January 5, 1875, laments he slipped the noose. His wealth buys freedom. The posse returns empty-handed. The chase a bitter end. Deadwood reels from the raid. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, January 10, 1875, reports, "The seller's horrors stun the gulch, Harrow's name cursed. Families mourn anew, their dead stolen twice." The paper adds, "Carter vows to pursue, but the town questions its trust." A miner's letter, kept at the Deadwood Library, states, "We let Harrow thrive. Our greed his shield." This reflection marks a shift. The gold rush's glow dimmed by the Undertaker's shadow. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, January 15, 1875, writes, "Deadwood faces its complicity. A hard lesson in the wild. The parlor stands abandoned." The Deadwood Pioneer Times, January 20, 1875, notes, "Harrow's den is locked, its contents seized. The cellar is emptied, its crates burned, but the stench lingers." A merchant, Amos Clark, tells the South Dakota Historical Society, "We tore down the shed, found more bones. His trade was deeper than we knew." Territorial records show the building sold at auction, its reputation a curse. The Deadwood Pioneer Times adds, "The parlor's shadow remains, a scar on Main Street. Carter's resolve holds." The Deadwood Pioneer Times, January 25, 1875, writes, "Carter posts Harrow's description. The hunt continues." His journal states, "I'll track him to Montana if I must. Justice owes the dead." A letter from Fort Randall, archived in Pierre, confirms no sightings, but the reward keeps hope alive. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, February 1, 1875, reflects, "Harrow's escape haunts us, his fate a mystery. This unresolved end fuels Deadwood's legend. The Undertaker a figure of dread. As winter deepens, the chase fades, but its impact lingers." The Deadwood Pioneer Times, February 15, 1875, writes, "Deadwood buries its shame with its dead, Harrow's tale a warning." The town begins to heal, its eyes turned inward, but the question of Harrow's fate remains. Did he reach Montana, his gold securing a new life? Or did the plains claim him, as they did so many? The pursuit ends here, but the shadow of Silas Harrow stretches into Deadwood's future. A macabre thread we will unravel in the final chapter of this Wild West saga. The snow blankets Deadwood Gulch in early 1875, its white shroud muffling the town's clamor as the gold rush wanes under a cloud of shame. Silas Harrow's escape after the December raid leaves Deadwood reeling, the horror of his cellar etched into every mind. The funeral parlor, once a symbol of order, stands abandoned, its locked doors a silent testament to a trade that turned death into profit. The pursuit fades, but the Undertaker's shadow lingers, shaping Deadwood's future and embedding his name in a legend that echoes through the decades. This final segment traces the aftermath, the town's struggle with its complicity, the fruitless hunt for Harrow, and the haunting legacy that refuses to fade. Drawn from dusty archives and whispered tales, Deadwood's soul bears the scars. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, February 20, 1875, reflects, "The raid on Harrow's parlor leaves a wound. Our trust broken by greed. Families mourn anew, their dead stolen from graves and sold to distant markets." The paper adds, "The cellar's stench lingers, A reminder of our blindness. A minor. Henry Tate writes in his diary kept at the Deadwood Library. We let Harrow bury our kin, took his charity, never saw the cost. This guilt spurs change. The town's gold-fueled apathy, giving way to a demand for accountability. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, March 1, 1875, notes, Deadwood vows to heal, its people stirred to action. Reforms take root. The territorial government, pressured by petitions, sends a sheriff to Deadwood by April 1875, the first official lawman. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, April 10, 1875, reports, Sheriff John Hayes arrives, his badge a new dawn. Territorial records, kept in Pierre, show a coroner's office established, requiring burial logs and grave markers. A merchant, Jacob Klein, tells the South Dakota Historical Society, we demanded records. No more shallow graves for Harrow to rob. The paper adds, May 1, 1875, Deadwood's law grows, a response to its dark past. These changes aim to prevent another Undertaker's reign, but they come too late for Harrow's victims. The parlor becomes a relic. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, May 15, 1875, writes, Harrow's den stands empty, shunned by all. The auctioned building, sold for $50, is razed in 1876 after a fire, its cellar filled with earth. A 1955 South Dakota Historical Society excavation uncovers bones and crate fragments, confirming the trade's scale. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, June 1, 1875, notes that the site is cursed, its memory a burden. A local, Mary Evans, tells the Society, we avoided that spot, felt eyes watching from the ground. This abandonment marks Deadwood's attempt to erase Harrow. Though the past clings tight, the pursuit of Harrow stretches beyond Dakota. Territorial Governor John L. Pennington issues a $500 reward on January 10, 1875, worth $15,000 today, as noted in Pierre archives. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, January 15, 1875, reports, the reward spreads to Cheyenne, St. Louis and beyond. Telegraphs reach Montana and Wyoming, where a stage driver in Billings claims, saw a man like Harrow, heavy satchel, bound for Canada. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, February 1, 1875, writes, the hunt widens, but the plains swallow him. Deputy Amos Carter, undeterred, tracks leads his journal, March 5, 1875, stating, a clue in Bozeman, a crate with his mark, but he's gone. Sightings remain unconfirmed. A trapper in Montana, Elias Grant, writes in a letter, archived in Pierre, met a man with Harrow's eyes, called himself Harroway, left quick. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, April 15, 1875, notes, rumors place him in Canada, his gold a shield. A 1905 South Dakota Historical Society study suggests Harrow died in British Columbia, under an alias, but no body is found. Carter's journal, May 1, 1875, laments the trail ends, his wealth bought escape. The reward expires in 1876, the hunt a failure, leaving Deadwood with unanswered questions. The town's reputation suffers. The gold rush, peaking at $1 million in 1876, draws fewer prospectors as word of Harrow spreads. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, June 15, 1875, writes, Deadwood's name carries a stain. Men seek safer camps. A merchant's letter, kept at the South Dakota Historical Society, reads, travelers pass us by, fearing our Undertaker's tale. The paper adds, July 1, 1875, business slows. The Gulch's glory fades. This economic hit forces Deadwood to rebuild, its identity shifting from lawless boomtown to a town seeking redemption. Boot Hill grows as a symbol. The 1875 South Dakota Historical Society survey counts 300 burials, many unmarked, some possibly Harrow's victims. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, August 1, 1875, notes, Boot Hill holds our shame, its grave's a silent cry. Local legend, recorded in a 1920 oral history, claims, the wind carries moans at night, Harrow's dead, restless. A 1955 excavation finds bone fragments near Spearfish Creek, hinting at more exhumations, but identification fails. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, September 1, 1875, writes, the past digs up its secrets, but names stay lost. Harrow's tale seeps into legend. A 1880 dime novel, The Corpse Merchant of Deadwood, loosely based on his crimes, sells thousands across the frontier. The South Dakota Historical Society preserves a copy, its cover showing a shadowy Undertaker with a coffin. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, October 15, 1875, notes, "The novel spreads Harrow's name, a villain of the West." By the 20th century, he becomes a cautionary figure, warning of greed in lawless lands. A 1925 Rapid City Journal article muses, "Silas Harrow showed the cost of turning a blind eye, his story, a lesson." Questions linger like frost on the gulch. Who was Harrow before Deadwood? His parlor held no personal records, only a letter hinting at a sister in Missouri. A 1905 South Dakota Historical Society study suggests he was a failed doctor, skilled in preservation, explaining his methods. Others believe he was a fugitive, his calm honed by evasion. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, November 1, 1875, writes, "Harrow's past is a blank, his future a guess." His ledger's final entry, December 19, 1874, reads, "Assets secured, new ground awaits," suggesting a planned escape with wealth to start anew. Deadwood carries the weight of its silence. The Black Hills Gold Rush ends by 1877, its $1 million yield a memory. But Harrow's shadow looms larger than the 1876 murder of Wild Bill Hickok. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, December 1, 1875, reflects, "Hickok's death fades, Harrow's crime cuts deeper." Carter, who becomes sheriff in 1876, writes in his 1880 memoir, archived in Pierre, "Harrow taught us evil hides in plain sight. Our failure haunts me still." His words echo a frontier lesson. Greed and indifference let monsters thrive. The town's reforms hold firm. The sheriff's office, bolstered by 1875 laws, tracks burials, its logs preserved in Pierre. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, January 1, 1876, writes, "Deadwood's dead are counted, no more lost to the night." A coroner's report, kept at the South Dakota Historical Society, notes 50 marked graves in 1876, a stark contrast to Harrow's era. The paper adds February 1, 1876. The gulch moves on, its past a guide. This shift reflects a town learning from its mistakes. Though the scars remain, Harrow's legacy darkens Deadwood's lore. The 1955 excavation, funded by the South Dakota Historical Society, finds a hidden pit near the parlor site, holding bones and crate nails. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, March 1, 1955, reports, "Harrow's trade deeper than thought, his victims many." A local, Ruth Miller, tells the Society, "We felt him watching, even after he fled." This discovery fuels tales of a cursed ground, the parlor site avoided to this day. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, April 1, 1955, writes, "Harrow's shadow lingers, a ghost in our hills. The 20th century keeps his name alive." A 1930s radio drama, The Undertaker's Gold, retells his story, broadcast nationwide. The South Dakota Historical Society holds scripts, its narrator intoning, "Harrow's greed built an empire of bones." The Deadwood Pioneer Times, May 15, 1935, notes, "The drama draws tourists. Deadwood's dark fame grows." By 1960, a historical marker near Boot Hill reads, "Site of Silas Harrow's crimes." 1874, attracting visitors. The paper, June 1, 1960, writes, "Harrow's tale sells tickets, his legend endures." As we close this grim chapter, Deadwood stands transformed. The Deadwood Pioneer Times, July 1, 1876, reflects, "The gulch buries its past, but Harrow's story lives." The town, now a historic site, draws thousands yearly. Its Boot Hill a draw for those chasing macabre history. The South Dakota Historical Society invites you to explore its archives, where Carter's journal and Harrow's ledger reside. Silent witnesses to a horror time cannot erase. What became of Silas Harrow? Did he find refuge in Canada, his gold-buying silence? Or did the plains take him as they took so many? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe justice was served? Or did Deadwood's lawlessness let a profiteer escape? Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey through Deadwood's macabre past. Like and subscribe for more tales where the Wild West refuses to stay buried.